Just been out here asking people about their loved ones, who they've lost. And she said, one of the questions that really stumped me was, what annoyed you about your loved ones?
It's not what you think about when you think about them usually. So we'd be like, Mom, can we go already?
And she said that she's become better as a person since her sister died. And so I thought that was really, really special.
We are just cracking up. We're like, Tanya, that is the best. And we're like, okay, I think you've turned this annoying thing into a new tradition. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Good Grief. As you can see, we are not in our lounge room. Where are we, babe?
We're sitting on a park bench in the middle of Surfers Paradise on the Gold Coast, Australia.
We are. And you know what? We were trying to think of what is another place in the world that's kind of like this. And I think the only place I can think of is kind of like downtown Hollywood. If you're a local, you don't really go there, but it's super touristy and just quirky, and you'll find all types of people here. This is that place in Australia.
Yeah, so we don't hang out here.
We don't hang out
at
here.
all. So
No.
It's very odd to be here.
Yeah.
This was, before I lived on the Gold Coast, the place of like, oh, that's what the Gold Coast is. But it's way more than this. In front of us is the beach. It's beautiful.
Behind us is Cavill. It's called Cavill Avenue. It's been here since the beginning of the Gold Coast. You got shops, you got nightclubs, and restaurants.
And we've just been out here asking people about their loved ones, who they've lost, some of their stories. And we've heard some really touching stories, which we'll talk a little bit about.
Absolutely.
But there's one question we've been asking today that my mum actually shared with me. And
yeah, what is it?
Well, story first.
Okay, story first, before we get into that.
When Dad died 12 years ago, we saw a grief counsellor, and that was phenomenal. But after that, I didn't actually know this, or maybe I can't remember it because of grief brain, one or the other. Mum actually went to sort of a group grief share type meeting.
Yeah, I didn't know she'd been to those either.
Yeah, and so just the other day we were FaceTiming, and she said, one of the questions that really stumped me was, what annoyed you about your loved one?
Great, so great.
Because she,
it's not what you think about when you think about them usually.
And everyone in the class, she said, was offended, and nothing, literally nothing annoyed us. And
I can totally picture that.
The facilitator was like, all right, everyone just count to 3, and I'm going to ask you the question again. And this time I want you to take them off the pedestal that you've put them on and actually think about all of the things that did annoy you. And so she actually went on to say, after a bit of thought, my husband Chris annoyed me by the way he ate cashew nuts. He would chew them, his mouth would be open and crunch on them. And
so specific.
Yeah, and then I was like, yeah, well, that annoyed me as well, absolutely. So we're out here asking people a whole bunch of questions. One of them has been, what annoyed you about your loved one? And we're going to share, most likely, 2 people's stories and about their loved ones. But I want to throw the mic to you.
Okay. I also want to throw the mic back to our audience. Just 1, 2, 3. You guys have a think about what annoyed you about your loved one. I'd love for you to be thinking while we're talking.
And I think it's important too, because I really held my dad on this pedestal of perfection. But as I've gotten older, I realized, wow, I'm a flawed human, just like he was.
As we all are.
And it helps me understanding that he wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
So back to you.
Okay.
Tell us about your mum.
So Mum, I've been trying to think of more because like you, grief brain, I've forgotten all those things. And specifically I've mentioned before that she asked a lot of questions. So you'd come in the door and then bang, 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 she would just fire off all these questions. You're like, whoa, Mum, I just got in the door. Can you just chill? And so also because of that, when we were out places, we were always the last to leave. Like church. As growing up as kids, we were always the last to leave. And so we'd be like, Mom, can we go already? She's still talking to people because she's just so invested in getting to know you and what happened in your day.
So there's probably many hours you were out stuck somewhere when you could have been at home and having a shower and a bit of fun.
Not to mention she knew
out.
Everyone. So, yeah.
I like that. Well,
and so what's your one about your dad, other than the cashews?
Yeah, no. Coming up to Christmas time as well, every year it comes to mind because like my brother and I would wake up first, then mum and dad, and we'd all meet in the lounge room ready to open presents, or the normal series of events for our family. And dad would be sitting there on his phone texting every single person in his contact list, and I mean everyone, like hundreds of people, one by one, not even a
copy paste,
like really personal. And we'd be like, Dad, far out, man, like what about your family? And he was too busy loving everybody else. And
Dad, it's Christmas Day, can we be jolly over here?
That's as much a trait and a good thing of his as it is something that really annoyed me. So, and now I might do that a little bit.
Oh, please, you better not.
I might do that from time to time as well.
Oh, dear. So, tell me about the people you met today.
Bunch of different people, but two stories I sort of want to highlight just standing behind us here, actually. So if you're watching on YouTube, for everyone watching on YouTube, behind us, I was holding a sign that just said, have you ever loved somebody and lost somebody? And what is their name? And so we just started conversation.
So many people just reading the sign.
And literally, you saw me, I walked over 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, I held this sign up, and a woman standing nearby by the name of Kobe immediately locked eyes, came in and just said, I lost my sister Hannah 2 years ago in a car accident to a drunk driver. And I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that conversation so
straight
quickly.
Up.
I was kind of like, this will take a few minutes and I'll find my place here. And so I asked Kobe about her sister Hannah, and we might tell that story in full on socials or somewhere else. Kobe's a beautiful soul.
She is.
And she, as we were talking, I just said to her, I've got a bit of a strange question for you. What annoyed you about Hannah? And she cracked up. And so we're going to cut to a clip and introduce you to Kobe. So enjoy. What would you say was something that annoyed you about Hannah?
Something that annoyed me? Oh my God. Oh, I'm gonna cry. She was the only person in my life that always called me on my bullshit. Always. And she would say to me, that's not true. That's not right. Really? This is how you're feeling. This is how you're thinking. Or she would have no qualms in being really 100% honest with herself and with others, and that was quite triggering because she saw things sometimes that I wasn't able to see. Sometimes she was 15 years younger than me, and she sat me down once and made me delete every single picture and every single email from my ex-boyfriend.
Wow.
And it was powerful.
What a sister.
It was powerful. For someone that was 15 years younger than me, she was just, she was a shining light.
And we're back. What was cool about Kobe was that she said that she's become better as a person since her sister died. And so I thought that was really, really special.
Super special. I got to meet Kobe very briefly, but super lovely lady, and I wish her all the best and hope we get to meet her another time.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
She'll be back.
She'll be back. All right, who was next?
We've got Paul.
Okay, Paul.
And Paul sort of got my attention, came over and said, hey, mate. He's like, yeah, I've lost heaps of people, from family to friends to apprentices. And Paul had actually lost an apprentice to suicide by the name of Dane.
Wow.
And so
while he was working for him?
No, he'd moved back to, I believe, Dane, his apprentice, had moved to Perth.
Oh, okay.
And then died by suicide
right.
at that point. So I asked Paul, we had a great conversation as well, and then I rolled out the annoying question. And he had a good laugh too, so let's have a look to see what Paul has to say. What was something that annoyed you about Dane?
He was like a puppy that needed constant reassurance. Like working with him, it's like every hour he'd like need you to go and pat him on the head and go, hey, like, you're doing a good job, it's okay. And it was like frustrating because you're like, man, like you're fine. You know what I mean? Like nothing's
you're
wrong.
Doing all right.
Yeah. But it was just that constant reassurance. It was like, yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
So It's so interesting
Yeah.
when you stop to think about those things that annoyed us. And then we've recently on our Good Grief Club calls
Yes,
with all of our members, we've been asking them the question as well.
we have.
What ones really stood out to you?
So we have a member called Tanya, and she was telling us about her dad. And did we tell this last episode?
We may have, but it's worth telling again because
It's worth telling again
it's
for those who
hilarious.
didn't see last episode. So Tanya's telling us about her dad, and she was like, I didn't really know him as an adult, so I don't know too much that I can remember about him, you know. And so we were digging with other questions, and we're like, what was Christmas like with him? She's like, oh, Christmas. Oh my gosh, my dad. And we're like, tell us more. What's going on here? And she's like, he would always buy the tree on like the last day, like the day before Christmas.
So
we're like,
good.
why is that? And she's like, oh, because he was cheap. Because
he
they
was
went on
cheap.
sale.
Literally, there was not a dry
We are
eye.
just cracking up. We're like, Tanya, that is the best.
Oh,
And we're like, okay, I think you've turned this annoying thing into
Into a
a new
tradition.
tradition. Like,
buying the Christmas tree the day before Christmas.
yeah, saves you money, and also
You remember your
you
dad.
remember and honor your dad.
So shout out Tanya in Moldova.
Yeah,
we
so
appreciate,
good.
love you.
Yeah.
But that's our question for today's episode. What annoyed you about your loved one? And maybe it could become a tradition. Maybe it could just be a way to have a laugh
Totally.
when you need to have a bit of a break from the heavy sadness, the deep darkness, the tears.
I think though, you can't get annoyed about it anymore, you know? So I think it's a
It's true.
great way to bring in the joy and the laughter, because now you can only laugh about it.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think this is a great way to, whenever you're just feeling a little down or a little sad, ask yourself this question: what was something else that annoyed me about them? And I think it would always bring a smile or a laugh to your face. Hey,
So good.
yeah.
Well, this has been fun.
This has been so fun. Coming to you live from outdoors.
Reporting live. We're gonna wrap this episode because our best friend and videographer and all of the things,
Photographer
tech wizard, he's holding Nazare behind the camera.
Who hasn't had enough sleep today. My
So-
watch was going off telling me she needs her third nap, but she hasn't had her second.
So if you found this episode helpful, or you've found a little bit of joy, or you've thought about that question that you've never been asked before and it's been interesting, rate the podcast. That would be amazing. That's
Yeah.
all we ask. That way more people can hear these conversations and we can normalize grief, but we can also walk this journey together.
100%.
So until next time, from Surface Paradise,
Big love from us.
Ciao.
Ciao.